Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody, glad you're here. For practice today, if you happen to have blocks around, go ahead and grab them. We're gonna do a little bit of half moon kind of balancing. If you do not have yoga blocks, absolutely fine. You can use the air or a chair or anything at all, stack books, something just to have your hand not have to necessarily be on the floor. For today's intention, I'm actually going to borrow from a mantra that my friend was saying she was using that was very helpful. And she said, I've been dealing with this situation with this person who's hurt me, and I've been carrying it, and it's their actions. So what I said to free myself from this was, I release your karma, it's yours. It's like that, not my circus, not my monkey kind of thing, which I try to say all the time and try to remind myself, like, what other people say and do says more about them. But what she was really getting at with herself was I'm getting so upset about somebody else's actions, and it's our own actions that impact us. It was not what this person did to hurt my friend that was hurting her. It was her anger and her holding on to it. It's like, I choose to be here now, and I would rather be here now in a place where I'm not holding that. So we're going to work today into some beautiful, expansive shapes, working in our own bodies and our own experiences. Some of them might feel a little bit weird. You might fall out of some of the balances, and that's totally fine, because whatever does happen is exactly what is happening for you. It's this moment. It's fine and perfect exactly the way it is, even when it's not perfect at all. Take your index finger and thumb together. We're going to start with face brushing. So the little squishy spot at the bottom of your thumb, just bring that to the center of your forehead and brush outwards towards your temples a few times. And then brushing from the sides of your nose out to your temples, along your cheekbones. From your temples down to your chin, along your jawline. From the sides of your nose down to your chin, along your laugh lines. Take your fingertips and bring them behind your ears. Feeling your head start to lift up a little bit taller off of your spine. Take another big breath in. As you exhale, release your hands down into your lap. Try to keep that lift into your back, into your body. And today, perhaps your intention can be that you are invested in your own practice, in your own actions, your own breath, knowing that all of the things that I offer are merely suggestions. You just do you. Take another big breath in through your nose. Big exhale through the mouth. Again, like that. For 3 ohms. I'm going to start today by opening our legs out just as wide as is comfortable. So see if you can go open pretty far, but if it feels like your legs are going to break off, of course, bring your thighs a little bit closer. Now take your legs, maybe you bend your knees a little bit so you can see where your knees are pointing. And you want to try to have them point maybe like just behind themselves on the ceiling, like they're shining a light up. It just kind of turns back just a little bit. Spread your toes out. And start with your hands back behind you because you can get a nice lift into the spine this way, lift into the heart, so you can still lift your ears up off of your shoulders. And this might start to give you the space to kind of hinge forward a little bit more, leading with your heart. And if you've got more space, if you're feeling okay about it, start to walk your hands forward, but try to keep your knees and your toes turned up and back. You might stop here, you might have stopped here. Go for as far forward as feels reasonable for you right now, knowing that this is like the very first pose that you've probably done today, or at least in this practice right now. One more breath in. One more breath out. Then start to pull yourself back in. You're gonna slide your right hand down your leg and then reach your left arm up and over. See if you can still keep your toes up and your knees turned like just almost back a little bit, yeah? And then you're gonna release your shoulder from your spine, yeah? So the arm kind of comes forward a little bit. Your chest is still open. Take an inhale, reach out through those left fingertips. Exhale, maybe you go a little bit deeper. Big inhale. Big exhale. Start to lift yourself up. We'll slide the left hand out on the leg and then reach your right arm up and over. I'm going to release that shoulder blade slightly forward. This leg will probably have a tendency to dip in. Can you still keep it open? Inhale, reach out a little bit more through those fingertips. Exhale, soften into it. One more breath. Then start lifting yourself up, Jezebel. We're going to take the feet in together and start to fold forward. Thank you for bearing with my dog feet. Just start to hinge forward at your heart. Jezebel. Thank you. Yoga is supposed to be peaceful. We're already playing the music. Lifting your ears off of your shoulders. Nice long spine. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then send your legs out wide again. This time you're going to turn towards your leg and then see if you can draw yourself forward into a fold. But if this hip is following you, back up, rest it down, keep those knees and toes slightly turned out, and then turn your heart down towards your hip. So there's a little bit of a twist going on. Sense we're twisting. Keep softening your belly, just see how much more forward you're able to get. Yes. Breathing in. Breathing out. One more time, breathe in. Big breath out. Start to walk yourself back. And then turning over towards the other leg, make sure that this one didn't dip in as you go forward, kneading this hip down as best you can. And then there's a little bit of like, if I go forward here, I'm not really twisting, but in order to go to the leg, I'm twisting, kind of like softening this belly space, relaxing these lower ribs in. Every exhale, see if there's maybe some tension somewhere that you can let go of. Not holding it or being bound by it, even if you experience it. One more breath out. And start to walk back up towards the center. We're going to come forward one more time, still with legs open. You might love this. This might be like your happy place and you feel good here. You might start to walk it forward and just notice if it's changed at all since you first started to extend this nice long spine of yours forward between your legs. 2 more breaths like that. Start to walk yourself back up. I'm gonna come down onto our backs for just a little bit here. So go ahead and slide anything you've had underneath you out of your way. Come down onto your mat. Bring your knees into your chest, give a little rock side to side, massaging into your lower back around those hips. I'm gonna open your arms, drop your knees over towards one side. And relax this left collarbone a little bit more. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then bringing the knees up and over towards the other side, finding that twist in the other direction. And the tendency with the corner of the shoulder here is going to be to lift up. Can you relax that collarbone and see if maybe that shoulder softens a bit? Even if it doesn't change its position, what we really want to do is try to change how it feels. Changing our response, reaction. One more breath out. And start to come back into the center. You're going to keep holding onto your right leg. Go ahead and slide your left leg out. See if you can make the leg straight. You might have to hold behind your thigh if things are feeling really tense, just to give yourself more space. And then you're going to try to extend out through the sole of the right or the left foot, the one that's out there. And then the right leg you'll soften into you just as much as you can. So even though like you might think about like this is working the right leg, really it's working both legs open, but you're soft in the right leg, the one you're pulling in, active in the left leg, the one whose foot you're pushing out. And it might even be like a little bit heated. You're going to extend your leg out. Maybe you notice your breath has changed. See if you can bring that breath back. Big breath in. Big breath out. Now go ahead and relax that left leg. I'm just going to open the right knee out to the side as much as it will. And exploring what that space is that's available to you. Come to the bottom of your exhale. And then draw yourself back up. And we'll take your left leg in and start to slide your right leg out. You want to try to get the leg pretty straight. It's okay if there's a little bit of bend in it. You still want to feel the foot pressing out. Maybe you can get the foot pretty straight though. Again, don't worry about how close this leg is getting in. You don't need to tuck it into the point at which you're having resistance or pain, but you do want to try to soften it. Active in the long leg. Good. One more round of breath. And you're going to take the left leg, you can relax that right leg. You start to open it out to the side, just feeling how open it gets. What does it feel like opening that leg? Come to the bottom of your exhale. And then draw the leg back to the center. And then pull both legs in. Give yourself a little rock around. And then you're going to flex your feet, make your shins parallel with the ceiling or parallel with the floor, whichever makes more sense to you. Hands can go underneath your bum or back behind your head, which means we're probably doing core work. Great. So squeeze your thighs towards each other. They don't have to touch. And draw your belly gently towards your spine. So not like you got punched, but like there's some tension there. You want to try to keep your left leg very still as you open your right leg as much as you can. And then exhale, draw the thighs towards each other. Stay on the right leg. Inhale, open it up. Exhale, draw it back to the center. Now, see if you can find a range of motion where your hips stay mostly stable and your shoulders don't go all like, that. Yeah? The body like just wants to do that. Can you keep it mostly balanced in the face of this chaos, in the face of this madness? Go one more time. Open the leg, close the leg, and then keep them up there. Keep the belly drawn, and you're going to open now the left leg. Really trying to keep that right side just as soft as possible. Keep the breath moving. I'm not even going to pretend that I counted on the other side, but I'm pretty sure there's about 2 more. So we'll go with that plan. Oh, there goes my right hip. Okay, keep it in mind. 1 more. And then set your feet down. Now, it might feel really nice to take both legs open. Sometimes this is really tender for some of us, so just take one knee open for a little bit. I'll let you know when we're about halfway. This feels almost okay. Just take your fingertips and touch the outsides of your thigh. If it feels great, wiggle your shoulder blades underneath your heart so your heart and your inner thighs are all open. If you've been on just one leg, go ahead and switch to the other side. There's a lot of work that gravity does for you here. Gravity is super strong. I would not want to be charged with keeping myself connected to the earth without it. So go ahead and relax into gravity. Don't try to fight it. Big breath in. Big breath out. You'll close your legs back in together. Now, take your right leg. You're going to go ahead and roll over to the right side. See if you can get your right leg kind of extended out from the hip here. And then you're going to extend that left leg out and just notice we just did a lot of opening to be able to be here. But your hips probably don't both come to the ground with the leg fully extended. There's probably a little lift into this hip, right? And then you also notice that your foot's back behind you. So there's not like a lot of control, not a lot of strength here. I'm going to see if you can summon your left foot off of the floor. Oh, that's not easy. Especially with the dog in your face. Go ahead and set it down. And then you're going to bring this leg in and just roll over to the other side. So I'll show from this end. This is my less turned out leg, so it's much easier to see how I've got this hip. Like, I can get it a little bit more open, but honestly, it just doesn't even feel natural to have the hip all the way open and the leg open like this, right? Like this is trying to, like, the whole 90s squeeze us in between 2 panes of glass kind of way of teaching triangle pose or talking about triangle pose. So having this little like shift in the hips, I just like to observe this occasionally. We'll also use this in half moon. The hips are not completely stacked in half moon, but you're more powerful and connected to that leg if you can summon it. So in the half moon, you don't want to have the leg back behind you. We're going to try to keep it lifted up like that. Oh, that was not fun. Press your leg back down. You're going to come back to the center. Bring your knees and give yourself a little hug. Whew. You're going to rock yourself up to a seat. We're going to come onto our hands and knees. This way. And move through a few cat and cow. So as you inhale, rock the belly, look up. Exhale, round your spine and tuck your tail. Inhaling, cow pose, exhaling cat. Be sure that your elbows are wrapped back towards your thighs. Just training your arms to go in a good position to support you in a good down dog. One more round of breath. Release back towards center. You're going to take your right foot and bring it up by where your right hand just was, and then bring your hands up onto your front thigh. So I'm not as far forward as I usually like to be. My hips are back, so I want to be able to now send my hips a little bit further forward. Yeah. And then we're going to wrap up eagle arms. So you're going to take your opposite arm on top or just arms together. And then if your feathers don't wrap, just go ahead and fold them in and give yourself a hug. Now, notice where your right thigh bone is going. Sometimes it's just like resting forward. Sometimes it's kind of sliding out to the side. Can you pull your right thigh bone up and in towards your hip? You push the right foot down into the floor. Maybe feel just a little bit more put together here. Big breath in. Big breath out. Go ahead and unwind your leg, or arms are wound up. And you're gonna take your hands and you're just gonna walk them over. Like if you have a mat, it would be about to where like that other corner of your mat is the left corner of your mat. And set up your arms like you would for like a down dog. So you've got them slightly in front of you and your elbows are wrapped down. Now you can stay here. Maybe you walk your hands out a little bit further. Maybe you walk your hands out a little bit further. Once you curl the back toes under, lift the back knee up, you're gonna pivot that foot down, and now you're in warrior one legs, which might be super crazy. And you say, man, I should put my knee back down. And then you just go ahead and do that. If this feels okay still, see how far you can walk those hands out. I want you to keep down dog-like energy in your arms, but don't put the weight in your hands. Try to keep the weight in your feet. And pull that right thigh bone back towards the left foot. Maybe you can even feel your inner right thigh rolling towards the ceiling. This is probably one of the most intense things we'll do today. So see if you can take one more breath in, one more breath out. Walk the hands back in. You're gonna go ahead and lower that knee down. And bring the right leg back. And then notice the change in your hips if one has come into being. So you'll take your left foot up. You come up and you want to check and make sure that you're not back here. You want to have the hips slightly in front of the knee, so maybe you wiggle the foot a little further forward. And we'll take opposite arm on top for eagle arms. You want to leave the knee above the ankle, but push down in the foot and pull that thigh bone back. A little bit more square in the hips. A little bit more power in that front leg. One more breath in. Breathing out. You're gonna unwind your arms. You're gonna take the hands down. They go out towards that corner kind of. So I'll show this way. You've got your front leg, bent, and you're kind of reaching out and trying not to let the knee fall in. That's where the lifting the inner thigh comes in. Maybe you lift the back knee, peel the heel down like warrior one legs, and then it's down dog in the upper body, but not with weight in the arms. I like to call this Spider-Man warrior because it's like you're just Spider-Manning yourself up the side of the building. And still strong warrior legs. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then maybe you walk it back in before you lower that knee down and then come back into table pose. You're going to thread the needle, sliding the right arm down and out towards the left. So I'm going to rest on this shoulder, rest on the side of my head. You can do whatever you want with your hand. I like coming on the fingertips here, but sometimes reaching the arm over, putting the palm on top, taking the arm back behind. All of those are great options, or leaving it where it is. If you would like to, if it sounds good in your neck, if it sounds comfortable or accessible, you're going to take your left leg and just pop it out to the side here. If that sounded crazy, great. Not your circus, not your monkey, nothing that you need to be concerned about. One more breath in. Big breath out. You're gonna take your left hand. I'm gonna leave my leg out here. You're gonna unwind, take your right hand down. Then you're gonna walk it back and sit with your left leg out. And then come out towards this leg. So we have our Janu Shirsasana, our one-legged forward fold. Just kind of checking it out. You just relax the back, I hope, release a little bit through thread the needle, so maybe that helps to come forward over this leg. Just one more exhale. Start to walk it back in. I'm going to come back to your hands and knees. I'm going to pivot around so that I don't hit the wall. And we'll thread in the other direction. So you're going to slide Your left arm down, come the rest of your shoulder. You can be on fingertips or do whatever you want to do with this arm. There's all kinds of things. Choose your own adventure. Maybe you slide this right leg out, which I actually really enjoy. I feel like it gives so much more space to the back of that shoulder, but it can feel kind of scary in the neck and in the head if you aren't used to putting any of this pressure. And it's not a lot of pressure, it's just the positioning, right? Breathe where you're at. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then you're going to take your arm and unwind it. You're going to come back up and then walk it back. Just kind of pivot back, slide my foot out. And then I've got this leg forward. I'm going to come into this fold. Think of relaxing all of that back space. You were just hopefully relaxing to some extent. Oftentimes, it feels like the most difficult part about the folding, it can be the back. You know, we say, oh, I have really tight hamstrings, but a lot of times it's like all the way up into the hip, and then we feel that tightness in the back. So think softness there. Big breath in. Big breath out. And walk it back. And swing the legs back. We're going to come all the way down onto our bellies. And slide your right hand out to the right side. Now it might be a little bit more intense if you want it, if you have the elbow bent. I'm going to do arms straight today though, just kind of a little bit softer. Palm faces down, right out from the shoulder. You're going to, if you've got your right arm out, look over to the left, rest your head down, and then you're going to roll the left leg back. Now, it might be extending out in the air, it might be soft, it might be bent, if that gives you a little bit more room. But keep relaxing your right shoulder, allowing the right side of the chest to stretch open. Check in with your breath. Big breath in. Big breath out. And rolling over to your belly, you're going to slide your right hand in, look over towards the right, slide the left arm out, and the right leg rolls back. And it can be down, bent, wherever it feels best to you. Kind of liking this extending out. Really feeling that continuously releasing away. Big breath in. Big breath out. Roll over onto your belly. I'm going to slide the hands in by the low ribs. Roll the shoulders around a few times just to make sure that they're nice and loose, allowing your heart to come forward in the cobra pose. And then relax your collarbones open one more time. Take your next breath in. And as you breathe out, soften down. We're going to go into downward facing dog. Go ahead and push yourself up and back. You can come to standing at any point. We'll eventually make it there. Maybe your forward fold if that's feeling good to you. So if you can settle into the body here, be aware that your elbows should be pointing at least mostly downwards. Maybe you bend them. Maybe you bend your knees. Your heels are probably not going to be on the ground. Absolutely fine. But don't hike them up off the ground. Leave that tension behind. Pushing from strong armpits all the way out into your spread out fingertips. Relax the back of your neck. One more big breath in. Big exhale. And looking forward, we'll bring feet up to hands. We're going to do a little fold. Bend the knees, bounce things out. And keep the knees bent, keep your spine as soft as you can, rolling all the way into standing. We're going to set up for warrior 2. Oh, you know what? I'm like, how am I going to do this? Okay, grab, if you have like that stack of books or a block or what have you, or just kind of knowing that once we get to that point, if you wanted to maybe like go over towards a chair in that hat moving place, and just have that somewhere handy. Also, if you can't reach the ground and you just want to do like the hovering one, that's fine too. We're gonna do some other stuff before we get there, but I figured I might as well remember my orientation in space for a bit. So stay with straight legs for a moment, and then coming to your hips here, try to square your hips out to the side with your feet set up for triangle or warrior two. Is it kind of weird in here, right? Even as open as we leave that inner thigh with your hip, there's just something a little off. So relax the hips. And what tends to happen is this little tilt where this one's a little bit higher, this one's just a little bit forward. And it's pronounced in triangle. In warrior two, it's kind of the same, a little more subtle, similar kind of function though, because that's where the feet started. Go ahead and bend into that, you can feel that in warrior two. Maybe you even do try to like, you know, completely square your hips open. You know the weird thing that kind of happens in your knee there, unless it's just me. If you kind of tilt the hips, you can feel this inner thigh rolling up just a little bit more. And then open your arms, full warrior two. Kind of observing like where those shifts take place, how it feels in your body. Maybe you're like, man, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, and then you leave it alone. It's not the cue for you. You try another one day. I know it's a long time in warrior two. Take a breath in. Breathe out. And straighten your leg. You're going to put left hand in your hip. I'll be mirroring you here. Go ahead and reach your heart up to your right hand. Notice how the insides of your shoulders feel. See if you can relax those. Maybe you're able to open that heart upwards just a little bit more. Big inhale. And exhale. Back to warrior two. So we'll bend back into that leg. Feel that little like maybe shift that happens in your hips that you may not even have noticed happens before. And then reach forward, elbow down, coming into side angle. Now you might have this block nearby. If you wanted to put your hand down lower, you might want to. Maybe you do not want to. You just want to be up here. That's great. See though, even though your hips are a little bit tilted over, can you open both ribs out towards that long side? And then this top arm from the shoulder blade, release out through those fingertips. So you're really just sending it all away. Reach the backs of your ears out of your shoulders. Big inhale. Big exhale. And then you're going to reach up all the way back. Go ahead and straighten your leg. Now that more pronounced shifting of the hips moving into a triangle pose. So we'll come down. And then I want you to feel this hand. Imagine I'm there and I can press into your hand. So you feel that pressure of your palm, maybe opening that top shoulder. If you're practicing with somebody else, you can even try that. When you press into the hand, it will often open this top shoulder. There's a little bit more spice in this one. Instead of just, sometimes it's back there, like free floating, strong. And stay there, reach that arm up and over, a little change in how your obliques are working. Try not to hunch in here. We want to roll those bottom ribs forward as best you can. Breathing in. Breathing out. Draw your belly in, maybe a little bend in this knee. And then we're going to work into half moves. Stay on the same side, kind of feeling all of those same little hip shifts that we've been making. I mentioned when we were on the ground, you do want to try to keep the leg a little bit in front of you. And it's not as much core work when we're standing. Of course, the orientation is different. But if you have the leg going back, I can't even engage the core. So you lose out on all of that connectivity with the legs back behind you. You need to have it forward a little bit more. We'll feel it right in here. It'll be great. So you're going to come to stand up on this leg, so the same one you've been working with. We're going to come, maybe you have a block, maybe you're like, up here, and you just don't worry about how far you get down. If your hand comfortably comes to the ground, that's absolutely fine. Probably most of us, it doesn't, or maybe it would with a little bit more practice, or maybe it is today. But the block is maybe a little bit more than a foot in front of your foot, and I'm not resting on it, right? this leg is lifted. I want to make sure I can see my toes so I can feel my underbutt. I've got this core connectivity. My hips are not stacked, but I'm open. Yeah? So it's that little shift. Then you can reach this arm up, and instead of just having the arm flailing behind you, can you push the shoulder out into the hand or feel that pressure of that imaginary high five that I'm not there to give you. So that's one of my favorite hands-on moves, like let's high five forever. Maybe you're still breathing. Good. And then take that arm and you can reach it up over the head. Just feel the change in your core, your connection with reaching, and then bend, soften. Come on up. That was a really long hold. Good work, team. Like the cord that lasts forever and you're not sure if you want it to end. You might have wanted that half minute to end. It did. Okay, other side. Like that all around. You're gonna take your legs open and setting up like triangle, warrior two kind of legs. I'm just gonna like feel this out. Be different on either side. I don't feel, this leg turns out a lot more, so not as pronounced, but there's things. I'm taking that little shift, bend into the knee, and then maybe shift it again, yeah. Just, yep. It's like a little too much pressure here, maybe. So coming into the not too much pressure place, this little shift up in your arms. You feel this inner thigh rolling up, pushing both feet down. Looking out over the front fingertips. Steady breath. Warrior two, it's like, I'm not really doing anything that hard, but then sometimes like the tension just starts to creep in, so if it does, let it go. One more breath in. Big breath out. And then straighten the leg. Right hand at your hip, lift your heart up to your left fingertips. Now that's not to say that warrior two can't be difficult. It is. There's a lot going on there. You know, like thigh work. So if you don't do a lot of lunges and stuff and that was heated, you're like, what do you mean that's not hard? It definitely is. There's things happening. One more reach of your heart right up to those fingertips. And then come back to warrior two. So we have that break. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to come out and over into side angle. Maybe your hand comes down. Maybe you've got that block underneath your hand. And your hips are tilted so that you can pull that thigh bone back, but your ribs are still open towards the side here. You reach that shoulder out through those fingertips. It's like I just got another like 3 inches into my arm, right? Because I'm really releasing that shoulder blade. Not holding the tension there. Big breath in. Stay there, exhale. Reach up, lift the belly, lift yourself up. Got the legs straight now, taking that more pronounced shift into the hips, which will allow the spine to come forward and out into triangle pose. And then feeling that pressure out into your hands that comes right from the strength in the center of your heart. So it's all the way from that open collarbone and shoulder up through the fingertips. Ears away from the tailbone. You can feel that energy into both arms. Woo! And then the top arm comes up and over, and we're releasing the shoulder blade, finding all of that space a little bit different in the obliques. Exhale, maybe a little bend in this knee as you come all the way up. And then half minute on this other side. You might not hold it the whole time that I'm yammering on or trying to remain in the shape. Let's see what happens. Comes up. Like I said, like the blocks, you might want to grab something taller, be kind to tight hamstrings. It's okay if this knee is a little bit bent. Just trying to put your weight on this hand. You want to have the freedom if you wanted to lift that leg up. So take this leg out. So I've got these toes are facing out towards you. These toes are facing out towards my hand. My hips are a little bit tilted up and over, but not folding in. My ribs are opening up. I'm just looking at something that's not moving. Hopefully I can stay here. And I'm feeling my underbutt work a little bit, keeping my leg in front of me and not feeling it behind me. But there I go. And same thing. Take the arm up. Whoa. There's always a side that's going to not cooperate. Strong heart up to the fingertips. Yeah. Maybe you reach the arm up and over. Then fold. Gracefully or not. Go ahead and lift yourself up. Oh, the hip things. And the spine things. And the feels and stuff. Good. I'm just going to bring your feet underneath your hips. Take your hands, interlace them behind your back, and then you're going to move them just to one side of your back, maybe you're at your left side. Draw the elbows down and back, taking the shoulders with you, and then your tailbone maybe going yonder. Pull it in hither. So feel the fronts of your hips lifting up as well, a little bit more stacked. And then relax your chin. We have this tendency sometimes to toss the head back when we do these neck exercises. And then relax your left ear over towards your left shoulder. Changing slightly to turn the nose down towards your shoulder. One more exhale. And relax your arms a bit. Lift your head back up. Then move the hands to the other side of your waist. Elbows and shoulders down. Right ear over towards right shoulder. Be sure that your chin is relaxed. Maybe you soften your jaw a little bit. Maybe wiggle around. Fronts of hips still drawing up. Relaxing your nose down towards your fingers. Relaxing your arms a bit as you release your head up. Let your arms go kind of wiggle out. Now, we did last week a lot of work in Warrior 3 and we used the blocks. You can do that again. You can have your hands down on something, but maybe play a little bit more with the balance aspect of this time. This will be just our last standing thing. Your feet a little roll around real quick. Give me feet stretchy stuff. And more of a like stretched out open foot is a better place to balance on, a little bit more flexible and adaptable to the shifts that happen. Be vertical, or trying to be vertical. So you're going to come to squaring facing forward. Feel your inner thighs lift up. Drive this standing foot down into the ground. You're going to keep these thigh bones pulled in. And then go ahead and take this long body forward. You do want to have the toes pointing down, but can you also reach the toes out and away from you? It's going to be a little bit more of an expansive warrior. It might allow you to send the heart more forward. Yeah. So you're a little bit more parallel to the floor. And then stand it up. And go for the other side. You're going to stand up on this leg and lengthen the whole body. You know, tall and strong, lifting inner thighs. Lifting the thigh bones into your hip. Yep, this is the one that's not balancing. Breathing in. Breathing out. And then coming up. What do I get? Now work our way back towards downward dog. After downward dog will be child's pose. So if you want to come off of your hands any sooner, go ahead and do that. You're not at the front of your mat space, and you're right there. I'm going to come the arms up. It's like you're releasing everything outward. It's expanding outward. Very full, but not holding onto. One more big breath in. Exhale, hold it down. Take a moment to relax your neck and the backs of your legs. And then in your next breath in, lifting the heart forward. So we're halfway folded or halfway lifted, and the half is the heart. The heart leans forward. Big breath in. Exhale, fold. You're going to take the time to set yourself up in down dog, walking your feet back, putting up your arms, wrapping the elbows down. Once you get that strong arm placing, remember to relax your head and your heels. When you feel your hips start to lift and float up and back, like you've got a friend, you're going to take your pelvis and translate. Pull If you're launching your pelvis up into space, take a big breath in. Breathe out. Release your knees down. Nice and easy, nice and slow. Widen them a little bit, toes towards each other. Rest back into child pose. Your hips don't have to be at your heels. It might be more up here. Just work with whatever space your body is in right now. Take your right hand over to the right a little bit more. Bring your left hand over towards it. Keep releasing your left hip back, even as you extend out long through this left side. One more breath in. One more breath out. Walking your hands over towards the left. Both of them extending out long on this side body. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then come back to the center. You're gonna walk yourself back in here if it's comfortable to come onto closing the knees for just a moment. If this is like no good, you can always take a block and bring it underneath your hips. It's kind of hard on the tall setting, maybe like middle setting or something, or stack of books, etc. I'm gonna take just a moment just to see if you can let, like, we have all of this front-facing energy tends to be, and then we have like that swaying in the back. Can you let the body just kind of rest back a little bit? What I even like to do is to close the eyes and let my eyeballs kind of rest back towards the back of my eye sockets. I spend a lot of time seeing stuff. I spend a lot of time looking outwards. Maybe taking in a little bit too much from that. Give yourself this opportunity just to gently rest back. To be here instead of with what is next, because it's not yet. Breathing in. Breathing out. And then you're going to come off of your heels. You're going to curl the toes under here. Now, you might decide to have something to hold on to for balance. I'm going to try to come up onto sitting on your heels. I'm going to squeeze my thighs together. You might be here, or have your hips, depending on how long your arms are. See if you can get your heart up above your hips. Maybe with your hands at your heart. Oh my goodness. Notice your breath, if it's still happening, I hope. Exhale. And then you're going to come on down. Releasing those knees down. And you're going to a little rock around, or drum roll here. And then you might want to grab that to put underneath your hips again. As we come crossing, I'll mirror you. Left leg behind the right. You're going to widen the feet, the other one a little bit more open. Now sit back into cow face pose. Cool. And then what you might do is take this and bring it under your hips. This is going to help. So you might not have your hips quite as out of like the tilt situation. If this is just not working, maybe the bottom knee is a little bit tender. I'm going to extend that bottom leg out. So it might look like this, and then it's still going to be some big hip work here. If you're like this and you want a little bit more, take a little twist over towards your right. Okay. But if you've got both legs in, I'm going to try to take a moment, rest the body back a little bit. So I'm not leaning back, still in the same space, resting back into this space. Kind of cueing the body, the nervous system to respond with a little bit more softness to this shape that can be very resistant. You can stay here, you can hold onto your leg. If you wanted to fold forward, you could fold forward, but try to relax the back as you fold forward, so that's more of that resting into the back space. You also have an option of throwing the arms in, and that might look like, you know, the elementary school PE stretch here. It might take the other arm and slide the hand up your back, and whether or not your fingers come together does not dictate your success in this shape. Your ability to feel your elbows expand, your spine be long, and most of all, your breath continue. If there is such a thing as success, then that is success in this pose. It doesn't have to be easy. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to do it. Whatever you're doing, can you take another 3 breaths? One more exhale. And then the bottom arm slides down, top arm goes over, pull those shoulders out. We'll come to the other side. So you can unwind your legs before you come back into table pose. I like coming from table pose because when I start with thighs really close together, it's a lot easier to keep them together. Whereas if I want to just wrap up my legs, sometimes it gets hard to get those thighs squeezed in together, and then I awkwardly try to find that block where is it. And so we're here. If you're able to get your feet open a little bit more, you can get a lot more into the shape. I have like, they just don't. This is me today. This is where I'm at, and you are wherever you are at. And that might involve not worrying about the arms, just kind of being with the great many sensations in the legs. We add on some more sensations because why not? That's what life does to us anyway, right? You're like, I'm comfortable here, and then life's like, well, let's see what you do with this. You don't have to hold hands. Holding hands, not holding hands, holding hands, not holding hands, can't even tell, doesn't matter. Lengthen elbows away, reach ears out of shoulders, see if you can relax into the back just a bit, not hunching, not leaning back. Softening. Breathing. Big breath in. Release as you breathe out. Start to unwind your arms. Unwind your legs. You're just going to come right back to a seat. If you have anything underneath your hips, you can move it. If you have if you have like the pillow or a rolled up towel or a blanket that you'd like to have behind your hips, it's going to give a little bit of a tilt forward in your hips. That might help too. Make this fold go a little bit easier. You can more or less keep the knees up, and you don't have to roll back as much as you can. We're not trying to be quite as active at this point. So go ahead and come forward, and this might be forward. Come forward as much as you have space for. As you take your next exhale, see if you can soften a little bit more. Notice if any change happened with your shape, or just the way the shape feels. If you have more room to soften, maybe you move into that. Breathing in, breathing out. Start walking it back. We're going to shift over into pigeon on the right side. And if you do not feel good about being like on the knee or on in the hips as so, then just go onto your back and take the reclined pigeon. You have that ankle on the knee. You're just gonna have that front leg turned outwards, back toes face behind you. But stay lifted for a moment. Maybe if you can lift your rib cage up off of your hip spine just a little bit more, maybe lifting the backs of the ears, and then this thigh has a tendency to kind of creep up, or this hip has a tendency to creep up. Can you relax that hip back and be long on both sides of the waist? Big breath in. Breathing out. One more breath in. Maybe now you soften down onto your elbows. You want to make sure you're not sitting over on one hip or the other. And then that might mean that you take something and you slide it underneath this hip so that you don't have quite as much effort required in order to be there. Take a few more breaths, just being soft with yourself, continuously giving yourself permission to relax whatever becomes tight. Two more breaths. And start walking yourself up. Sit over onto your hips so that you can open things up. Now if you want to reorient yourself on your space so that you're doing pigeon facing the same way or what have you, that's fine. I'm going to shift over like so, finding pigeon on the other end and starting up. Both of my hips face forward, relaxing that front thigh bone back, lifting the heart up away from the hips, finding length on both sides of the waist, backs of the ears are continuously extending upwards. The breath is strong and steady. One more breath in like this. As you exhale, maybe now you come down towards the forearms. Do take care of yourself. Don't try to like push or go beyond wherever your space is today, but maybe don't predetermine how much space you have in this shape or any shape. This is a good, like I feel like I get into this place and I'm like, okay, there's my pigeon. This is how flexible I am, I'm gonna stay there. But sometimes over the time we spend, you get a little bit more room, you might wiggle that back foot back, maybe you just notice that you can soften somewhere. Breathing in. Breathing out. And starting to come back up and sit back on the hip and come out onto our backs. And bring your knees into your chest, give yourself a little rock around. And setting your feet down a little wider than your hips. Reach your arms back, you can just flop them back, maybe hold on to your elbows, maybe wiggle those elbows a little bit further away from your shoulders. Flex your feet, let both knees go over towards one side. Probably one leg will not come down, but you're gonna reach that knee away from you. And then soften your inner shoulders, see if you can feel those arm bones extend out away from your torso just a little bit more freely. Breathing in. Breathing out. And bring your legs back up. And go towards the other side. The top knee is reaching away from you. Feet stay flexed, protecting the ankle and knee joints. Release the inner shoulders. Allow those arm bones to extend outwards from the torso with just a little bit more freedom. One more breath in. Breathe out. Come back up to the center. I'm going to snuggle the feet in a little bit closer. Maybe to get a little closer to your hips, arms by your sides. Wiggle the shoulders under your back. Let's come up into bridge pose, pushing your feet down and your hips up. Maybe the arms wiggle in and hold each other. The shoulders wiggle in a little bit more. All four corners of the feet are pressing down. And can you still feel those knees reach away from you? And maybe give a little bit more room for the hips to rise, the heart to pull up towards your nose. Big inhale. Releasing your shoulders and softening your body back down onto the mat. We'll take a second round, just kind of seeing if anything extra is available there. Push down into your feet, wiggle those arm bones in, push the arm bones down, the feet down, let the hips and heart be free, lifting, rising, opening upwards. Big breath in. Relax your shoulders and your hips. Widen your feet, let the knees knock against each other. I'm going to end in an inversion, just kind of getting the body upside down, legs up against the wall. It sometimes sounds kind of counterintuitive to think that being upside down can be very grounding, but it really can be, because it's this, like, it makes your body really check into what is happening. It makes your nervous system and your brain really check into what is happening, because something inside of your brain is going like, it's not how we usually are, what the heck? And then it's like, okay, well, we need to be here now, because this is clearly requiring my attention. We are upside down. That's wild. So we'll get gently upside down. And then take yourself up. There's got to be a wall space somewhere around you, but I've also done many times, and I love doing this when I'm feeling very disoriented, is just lay on the floor and you put your shins up on the couch. It's great. Highly recommend. But for those of us who have a wall handy, and I've even got like the altar here, so I'm just gonna get as close as I can. You want to get your bum as close to the wall or your altar or whatever it is that is up here as possible, because once you go down, your hips are eventually going to go back a little bit from it, so you want to get as close as you can, and you just take your legs up there. You might have to like wiggle around a little bit, because it's a weird thing. It's probably been a weird thing the whole way through, because it's yoga and I like weird things, and I assume that you have at least some interest in weird things because you've been here this long, so let yourself do the weird thing. Breathe into the weird thing. If your feet are feeling kind of tingly at any point, maybe bend your knees. You can even let your feet plant on the wall. Maybe your knees open up. A lot of modifications, a lot of options. You can decide you've had enough of this and you would like not to be here any longer. Also, come into a seated meditation instead. We're going to take this as Shavasana. So if you do get to a point where something in you just lets you know that you're done with being in this place, however that happens, you can always come to laying down on your back or taking a seat and just being soft there instead. still got your legs up against the wall, just start to bring them down towards your chest. You can roll yourself over to your favorite side. Just take a moment to turn inwards. Just acknowledging this practice. Giving yourself gratitude for making this time for yourself. And starting to move forward into the rest of your day. You'll start to lift up, bringing yourself into your own version of a comfortable seat. With hands gathered at your heart lifted and open. Trying to keep this feeling with you as much as you can. Lifted and open. Seal practice, releasing an Om together. Big breath in. Bowing down to the love inside of our hearts, the light and the darkness within each of us. Namaste, friends. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Have fabulous days.